would you like to live forever? We are finally starting to understand the human brain. Born from artificial intelligence singularity, I give you the last machine.
The David Bramante Show.
Hey, Danielle, thanks for coming.
Hey, David, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I got the advanced copy of your book, Healing Adaptogens.
Yes.
It's not a common word for me yet, although I read it all the time. I never say it out loud. So I read it. Here it is, but I had to print it out, which actually was kind of not too bad. So I took a lot of notes. I take notes on the paper, but then I'll do my own notes going through it all.
Amazing.
And then we'll probably not talk about any of my notes. That's how it normally works. So thanks for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the book, so I definitely recommend it. But if you could tell us, where are you? You're working on this project and the book released, you were saying yesterday, if you could talk about that. And then just kind of how you got into this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for reading the book and taking all those notes. It's definitely the first time I've seen it printed out on computer paper like that. So fun to bring it to life. But I am chatting with you right now from Ojai, California. I'm actually based typically in Los Angeles, but I'm here with some family babysitting my nephew. And the book is being birthed, but there's definitely a process over the next couple months. So really excited to be able to share more about it. And really, it's thousands of years of knowledge, of healing stories, of clinical trials, of people experimenting with these ingredients. So you're right, the word is maybe new or even unfamiliar to a lot of us, but the ingredients themselves, and even more so the benefits that they offer us, are so relevant. So we'll get deep into what they are, maybe, how to incorporate them, best practices for shopping, whatever we want. But
okay, cool.
My story, there's many different chapters of it. I like to say, it's very organic. I never expected to be where I am today. I was really following what I was passionate about in each moment. And I was always that kid that was like, I never had this streamlined path. Everyone else was like, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be, a marine biologist, or they had this exact vision. And I was like, I'm a detox coach now, and now I'm doing holistic nutrition work, and now I'm a raw chef, and now I'm teaching yoga. And it was all of these different chapters that have really culminated into this journey of healing in the way of bringing traditional ancient practices into the modern world in a really accessible way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, we can go anywhere from there, but essentially my work now is primarily with Four Sigmatic. I've been with the brand for about 4 years, worn many different hats. Head of education. I'm moving into a much more innovation role after the book is birthed, and just focused on how we can source the highest quality, most efficacious forms of these ingredients and get them into the bodies of people that need them the most and may not even realize that they need them, or might not know what they are, in a really accessible, delicious, easy to use way.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm just curious, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I just turned 40. I found out about Four Sigmatic through Air One over in LA.
Yep.
I forget what it was. It's just like Air One and Four Sigmatic kind of go hand in hand for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw recently, I guess, Tero's last book. Were you also a co-author in that book?
So Tero wrote that book in 2017. And that was right before I joined forces with him. So
okay. Yeah.
That was all Tero.
He didn't start the company that long ago. 2012, was it?
Yeah, 2012. So we're celebrating our 10th birthday.
That's crazy.
But it was originally just started in Finland. So we were over in Europe for the first couple years, and then brought to the States in 2015.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, 2015. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Air One's always kind of on the leading edge of this stuff. You're familiar with that. Yeah, so there's one in Calabasas that I go to every morning and waste all my money there.
Same. I was there for breakfast and lunch yesterday.
So expensive. I know some person's like, I can never go. And I'm like, because it's such a ripoff, whatever. But it's expensive, that's for sure. There's no argument there. So I was there. I go there in the morning, And then they're like, oh, I never go. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I went today twice, because it's just like, it's 2 minutes from where I live.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my first kind of connection with it. I tried the mushroom coffees. And what I really started to like about the book, and I don't know if this is a common thing or a thing you guys are pushing, but I love the term functional coffee. Is that something you guys are coining, or is that just kind of growing out of the industry so people can accept that a little bit more? Like, you know, you don't, as I was reading the book, I was like sipping on coffee and it was super strong and black, and I was getting shaky and, you know, kind of a little distracted. And I also, so I was feeling bad about myself. I'm like, here I am reading this book and I'm drinking coffee. So the functional coffee kind of like bridges that, you know, because I'll drink a ton of coffee. I'll start with 1 cup and then I'll get more addicted. And then I might do 2 cups and then 3, usually around 3. And it's all like strong black coffee that I'm drinking all day. And then I'll stop. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have to stop. This is so unhealthy. And I do this over and over and over again. It's super unhealthy, but that's like my pattern. But I've never been able to do the mushroom coffee thing, you know, and I've tried it and I'm like, it's just not coffee. So I was curious, are you drinking coffee? Do you drink coffee?
Okay, great question. I drink decaf, so I don't drink caffeine. But when we say mushroom coffee, there's such a stigma around that. And there's also these like chagachinos and these like coffees, you know, with a K, or all these other alternatives to coffee. And so I think functional coffee is actually more accurate to what we're providing, which is real coffee. So we come from Finland as a brand, right? That's where our roots. Finns drink more coffee per capita than any country in the world. I
didn't realize that until I read the book. So it kind of makes sense why Tero even came up with any of these business ideas. Like he's kind of in the right place at the right time with this, where it's all coming. But yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use real coffee. It's organic Arabica, fair trade coffee, super premium coffee beans. And then we add functional ingredients. So I got a text this morning from a friend and she was like, I swapped Four Sigmatic coffee with our regular coffee. And my husband has told me 4 times how good this coffee is. He has no idea what the difference is.
Right.
And so it tastes like coffee, right? It is coffee, but we're adding either adaptogens, functional mushrooms. We add even other vitamins like vitamin D or minerals like zinc to either hone in on that why someone's drinking coffee in the first place. Maybe they want more physical energy or cognitive support. And then also the synergy that happens when you add the adaptogen specifically is you don't get a crash, you don't get jitters, right? The caffeine's a stimulant, and it's,
some people like that though, right?
we have super high CAF as well with the amino acid L-theanine, right, from green tea. So, I mean, a lot of times I hear, I'm like, people love their coffee, they love the routine, they don't want it to go anywhere,
right?
And yet the kind of downside is how they feel in the afternoon when they start to get all like tweaky and jittery.
For sure, yeah. So as I was finishing the book, I was, it wasn't today, it was the other day, but I was like on a cup of coffee that kind of had lasted all day. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I'm so jittery. I'm reading so fast, you know, because it was a kind of a crunch time to read it.
So you can keep your coffee. We're just going to add.
That's the thing. I kind of felt like this is, for some reason, I kind of felt like Four Sigmatic is trying to push everybody away from coffee. But no, it's never been just a strict mushroom coffee, right? Or was it?
Yeah, we're very pro coffee. All of our coffee has real coffee in it. Yeah. The one that I drink, we have a Swiss water processed decaf. So it's a really cool process. It's basically no chemicals used. They just use water and temperature and time, and 99.9% of the caffeine gets taken out. And then we add reishi and chaga extracts. So I still love that full flavor of coffee, but I'm very pitta. If we talk about the different constitutions in the book that you'll be familiar with, I'm a very like hot, fiery constitution. And so caffeine pushes me over the edge. That's just me, right? Bio-individualism.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so you got LinkedIn, just to kind of get some bearings here. So you started with the company, what was the year?
2018.
And how did you even get, so you're doing all these things personally or like, you know, through business, and they're all kind of organic. There's a pattern. It's all related kind of to the same thing of healthier living, right? And then somehow you link into, are you also a teacher or something?
I do. I teach mycology.
Oh, okay, cool. So how did you get linked up with this company if they're all the way, you know, on the other side of the the
Great
ocean.
question.
Yeah.
So I spent many years in Asia. So I was really studying Ayurveda and herbal medicine, living with hill tribe villages out there for about 3 years.
And you really
then
speak Thai.
I do.
That's
I'm actually
so great.
I'm going in a few weeks, going to
Okay,
see
cool.
my Thai family.
That's so crazy. Okay, sorry.
So yeah, I was out there. I decided to move back to the States and go to grad school for herbal medicine. And after school, during grad school, I started becoming really curious about fungi. I started growing mushrooms, and I've always been really drawn to what isn't being said. So what's in the corner? What are we not talking about? Why are we not talking about that? And even within this whole program, it's one of the top herbal academies in the world. There wasn't a formalized course in mycology. And so I started seeking on my own, okay, what is this? What's going on? Why aren't mushrooms part of our materia medica, right? It's like our encyclopedia of herbal medicine we can draw from. And so I started really kind of going down this rabbit hole and immersing myself in fungi in this other way. And after school, I opened a private practice. It was a clinical program. So it's kind of breeding you to start working with people in the community. And really, I had a practice working with people across the country. And I had no idea what type of people would be drawn to me. It's kind of like, I'm opening my doors, Danielle Ryan Wellness. We have herbalism and nutrition and who's going to show up. And the pattern was all of these individuals that had said, I've tried every practitioner and you're literally my last resort.
Last resort. So is this people with major illnesses? Is that what it was?
Yep. All sorts of autoimmunity, chronic illness.
And is it all like mainly wealthy people or like wealthy people with illnesses, or is it just kind of across the spectrum?
Yeah, great question. Part of my reason and ethics in getting into herbal medicine is medicine for the people. I want this to be accessible. And so I operated on a sliding scale. So really not a lot of wealthy people, maybe had one or two versus, dozens of people that were paying my minimum. So no questions asked, pay what you can, which was not the most sustainable business. I was bartending at night, having 12 patients throughout the day, going back, just hustling. But the
sliding scale was killing you.
The sliding scale, but
that's
it felt
great.
really important. There's people that were in college to people that were in their 80s. So this whole spectrum. But the theme was the Western world or other practitioners that they had seen, either they'd been misdiagnosed, they didn't believe that anything was going on with them. So that was a common theme. I'm experiencing all these symptoms.
They were in denial that they were ill?
No, the people felt that they were ill. They're like, I have these things going on, but there's not a name or a medicine or a diagnosis for it.
So weird. Yeah. Okay.
So they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me, or just straight misdiagnoses. Like I have been told I have Lyme disease or mold sensitivity or Crohn's. And they're like, so these treatments are being thrown at them instead of treating their body, treating these false labels of what someone else is saying that they have.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, the theme with all of this, it was a lot of immune compromisation, whether it was overstimulation in the case of autoimmune bodies or immune suppressive individuals from, if they were misdiagnosed, the classic procedure is to put someone who has an autoimmune disease on a immunosuppressant, right? So they're super vulnerable, weak, they're contracting all sorts of illnesses, getting sick every month. And so this is what geared me towards focusing on functional mushrooms. Then we can talk about this, the beta glucans, they're immunomodulators. And so it was one of the only both safe, right? We can talk about the scale of herbs. Mushrooms are a level 1 herbs. They're incredibly safe for a huge
You'll have
range
to
of
break
bodies.
that stuff down a little bit more, because I was reading it and I'm like, it's like when I'm reading a fictional story and the name is like really weird. I never say the name in my head. I just be like, weird name, said this and then did this, like I never try to pronounce it out loud. So you guys went into the weeds a little bit in the science stuff, which is great, but it's like a little overwhelming to push through when you're not familiar with any of it. So if you use any like big words, I feel threatened. So if you could break them down. No, it's just this stuff is not taught. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
We're not taught anything. I went to a pretty good high school. I went to, I feel like I was well educated, but none of it is like well educated. I get by what standard, like by tests, but nothing that's practical, none of
Isn't that
the,
crazy?
it's really scary actually.
Yeah. When I was in herb school, I was like learning about what my liver did for the first time, or when I ate, B vitamins, what it did to my body. Or I'm like, how have I never been taught any of this? It's really crazy. But
It's actually depressing if you think about it a lot.
yeah.
But because I wasn't exposed to it. So then when you're saying that you have this practice and people are coming to you as a last resort, I start to feel like a skeptical Westerner. Like there's no way you healed anyone. So of all these people seeing you, did you heal any of them?
I personally didn't heal anyone, right?
They healed themselves.
I think I'm more of a bridge
Okay.
in terms of them being motivated to get the right ingredients and the right allies into their body so that their vitality can rise again.
And
right?
did you see that happen at least one time?
Hundreds of times.
It's hard to, like I'm open to these things. And I like, even if I have a headache, I won't take aspirin. One time I like, what was it, like 4 years ago, I had pneumonia. I realized like, oh, it was like 2 or 3 a.m. I had been struggling with it, but I had like a stabbing pain. I went to the hospital at like 2 or 3 a.m. in an Uber. The guy thought I was rushing to the hospital because I was a doctor needing to do a procedure. I was like, no, bro, I have pneumonia. I'm like, there's a stabbing pain in my lung.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I asked them, hey, on a threshold of pain, like about where am I at the pain? And they're like, oh, surprised you didn't come in sooner. You're at the peak of the pain. And then they wanted me to take all these painkillers. And I told them, and they're always weirded out in the hospital if you don't take the drugs, and because it's just so easy and it's there and whatever. And, it pads the bill. But I told them, well, my body's already gone up this way with the pain. And if I'm here at the peak, why wouldn't I let my body like just be aware of it going away,
Yeah.
So they didn't really do anything for me other than a couple of tests, but that's, so I'm like, it's tough because I kind of fight the whole Western medicine thing, especially because I've had kids, now I've had 3 kids. One was a C-section, one was a VBAC, the other one was a home birth. So I'm moving away from Western medicine as much as I can, but I don't want to be crazy and completely ignore it. But I am skeptical that any of this herbal stuff works. So it's tough.
So yeah,
but without a doubt, it does work.
Yeah. So let me break down a few things. One, I'm not against Western medicine. My partner is a physician. And so we have really amazing conversations. He works in the emergency room in Culver City. And it's like, there's patients he's dealing with all day that you can throw the strongest dose of an herb at them and it's not going to be relevant, right? It's not going to bring them to where they need to be to survive in that moment. Where the other piece is that we have to recognize all of our pharmaceutical medicines originated from about 50% from some sort of fungi, the other from an isolated constituent from a plant. So medicine, in the way that we view it today, is we think of a plastic bottle with these, chemical created isolated
so far
compounds
removed in our minds here,
right?
Of where it really came from.
But those compounds are from the earth, right? Where else are they coming from?
Right.
I mean, penicillin is an amazing example of fungi leading the way and paving that path for antibiotics. But there's so many examples that we can speak of where, aspirin that we take all the time. You mentioned like I wouldn't take aspirin if I had a headache. That's coming from salicylic acid from willow bark, right? So we've taken these compounds from nature, we've marketed them and we've isolated them. And what I mean by that is in nature, whether it's a plant or a bark or a mushroom, there's many different compounds working together, right? So there's whether they're different sugars or minerals or vitamins, there's all of these, we call them phyto meaning coming from plant, and then constituent, right? Being a compound. So all of these working together. And it's really hard to have a consistent result when you're taking a medicine from nature that has all of these compounds working together, right? Because there's variability that happens. It could be based on the plant getting more sun or more water or the soil it was grown in. There's always going to be some fluctuation. And so in our modern way of understanding medicine, we need to have repeatable results, right? This is guaranteed that this is going to happen in the same way over and over again. And so the way we do that is we isolate one compound. So we have more of a consistent variable, right? But that compound came from nature.
Yeah.
And so
Just such a big disconnect,
yeah.
In
So
my mind, I don't know, I guess because we're just not exposed to it, but it's starting to open up more. It seems like I like that you were creating. I want to get back to how you got to Four Sigmatic.
We'll get there.
But yeah. But I did like everything is very practical in the book of how you're explaining things, where here we have this huge umbrella of Western medicine, the most widely practiced one. And you say Tero injured, his ACL. So it's good to have Western medicine do that, and in extreme scenarios, Western medicine's very good at doing these extreme things, very like specific things, right?
Yeah.
But it's oftentimes just addressing the symptom, not the root of the problem. And then the next like category underneath would be traditional Chinese medicine, TCM.
Uh-huh.
And then the next one is Indian, which is Ayurveda. Yeah.
Perfect.
But they're all it seems like Chinese and Indian medicine's kind of been blended together because they've been around and next door. But it's just so weird that it's slowly, it seems like, leaking up into Western medicine. It's just strange.
I think people are realizing my medication isn't working, right? This thing that I've been told would heal me is not healing me. And I'm actually dealing with a slew of side effects.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the reverse so the adaptogen is helping you build up and get you to like homeostasis with whatever your current ailment is. So it's getting to the underlying, it'll resolve the symptom, but it's allowing your body to build up to really, fix the underlying issue. But then there's all these other byproducts of health, where with Western medicine, you're targeting a specific symptom, but it could create other byproducts of illness. Or it's very strange. It's completely flip-flopped.
Yeah. And let's get into that a little more. When we treat a symptom, the symptom might go away, but what we see most often is a new symptom arising. And that is because if we just treat a symptom, so let's say, a common example is I have a rash, right? There's a rash coming up on my body, and an approach of treating the symptom would be, let's get a cream, some sort of ointment to treat that rash. Mm-hmm. I don't care whether the cream is pharmaceutical or made of calendula flowers in an herbal medicine. Either approach is symptom-based. Mm-hmm. Where adaptogens and functional mushrooms come in, and the approach that I want to talk about today is, why is that rash coming up in the first place? Mm-hmm. And we know that our liver, right, our largest internal organ, over 500 functions the liver is responsible for. We can think of it, this is like so like kind of isolated and compounded, but as like a filter of the body, right? We often think of the liver as our detoxification center. And if our liver is sluggish for a number of reasons, we're deficient in the nutrients that's allowing our liver to detox properly, our body's going to start releasing those toxins in other ways. Like, oh shit, I got to get this out of my body. And so we often see that expressed on the skin. So whether someone has acne or psoriasis or whatever ailment expressing on the skin, the first thing from a root-based place I look at is, okay, how's the functioning of this person's liver, right? What is their diet, or what? So
if it's a skin-related item, it's typically that's a byproduct of an issue with the liver.
Yes.
Oh. And these are like commonly known when you start studying this stuff.
Yeah. And
why would a Western doctor just be like, here, just slather this cream on it, see, good luck? Why is there that disconnect when these people are in this field?
Yeah, great question. Let's have a panel. We'll bring some docs on too. But people want a really quick solution. And we are taught that we have to treat symptoms, right? That's the way we think. I have a headache, so I treat a headache. We don't think I have a headache, so let me treat my gut, right? Or I have a rash on my skin, so let me treat my liver. That feels disconnected to us, even though when we break it down, we know that, oh, if we start supporting the liver and the liver health, and we allow it to detox, in an efficient rate, the rash should hopefully go away. It might take longer than the steroid cream, which might, make it feel better in a few hours or a few days. You might have to support the liver for a week or a few weeks, but then the rash hopefully is gone for good. Does that make sense? The difference between the symptom and the root? So it's more than just pharmaceutical herbal. It's just an approach to healing that you could take many things to support the underlying root cause. But I find if we ignore the root cause, we don't get better. And the symptoms continue to morph and move in unusual ways. And then it's, of course, really challenging to diagnose the person because they have these symptoms all over the place.
Right.
And on the flip side, when we start supporting these foundational systems of the body, whether it's the liver, right, the hepatic system, or the gut health, right, our microbiome, or our immune system, which is really interconnected to our gut, it's really incredible what symptoms, and this is meaning when you start taking adaptogens every day, even preventatively, you don't have a direct thing you're trying to treat. You're just like, oh, I wonder how this will start to move and benefit my body. Things that you didn't even realize, had anything to do with your gut or your liver start to dissolve. And I think we're raising our vitality. We're actually nourishing our body with the nutrients it needs to be fully alive and healthy and functioning and energetic, and all the attributes that we hope to have for a happy, healthy life.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. Western medicine is so widespread, but it seems like it's changing. You feel like it's changing slowly? It's incorporating Chinese and Indian medicine.
Yeah, I think that, and even Western herbs, some of the adaptogens in there, yet many are from all over the world, but some grow right here as well. We just have the most documented evidence in traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda of their use case. But I just hope people start realizing, and we're seeing this really on a big scale. Like ashwagandha has surpassed green juices in Google searches. Like people are looking for just other options. What else is out there? What else can I do to support my body? There can't just be this one way. And so I hope that they can rise together and people have a choice of, okay, I have a headache, I can use this, maybe there's 10 choices. But I think that's more empowering for the person as well, because they can start to understand, oh, I'm not just blindly going to take a pill for what I'm told I'm experiencing, but can start to critically think about, oh, what is going on with my body? Can I listen to these messages and then have options of medicines, and whether they're a plant or a mushroom or a pill, to start supporting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so how did you get linked up with this company? So just now it's lingering so much.
So many rabbit holes.
Yeah. I have a lot more. Just I'm trying to pull back for just a second.
Love it. So quick story. Basically, in my practice, I started focusing on functional mushroom treatment, which means I would create individual formulas for every client based on their body. And functional mushrooms would be the forefront of those formulations. And my end goal was for my clients to no longer need me. And so I wanted them to feel empowered to make their own medicine or listen to their own body. And I would give them, whole reishi mushrooms or like a chaga conch, and like, okay, you're going to grind this up and make a tea. So you're going to boil it overnight, and then you're going to put it in this alcohol. And they're like, yo, there's no way I'm doing this. Like, I can't get out of bed some days.
I know, I'm reading this book, and the way you prepare everything is like a tincture, a stew, I'm like, oh, this is the problem. Okay.
Totally. And
Yeah.
so at the time, now there's many other amazing mushroom companies that we mentioned in the book, but at the time, Four Sigmatic was the only option on the market that offered the ingredients in the way that aligned with my values as an herbalist, which we can talk about, the ancient intent, like using ingredients in the exact way our ancestors have used them for thousands of years. And tasted, right? We talk about that in the book, like tasting the medicine is so important. There's a cascade of reactions when we taste bitter or salty or sugar, sweet flavors in our mouth. And Four Sigmatic is a functional food company. So we're not delivering it in a pill or, you know, a whatever other form. It's to be tasted, to be experienced. And so I started suggesting Four Sigmatic as an option, and just started, you know, connecting with the brand. And yeah, there's a lot of really wild synchronicities that happened, like being in the same place at the same time, like a block away from Tero. I was living in Colorado at the time, so all sorts of things, and meant to be.
Just like tweeting him or something? What, was you just like hitting him up on Instagram at a certain point? Did that how this, you made the personal connection, or?
No, there was no personal connection then. Well, not with Tero. It was, there was another woman working at the brand at the time who my sister went to high school with.
Oh, random.
She reached out to me, and then I had a breakup, and I flew to visit my mom, who happened to live a block away from Tero, that I didn't know until years later.
Oh, wow.
And so he's like, I need to be in LA if we're going to, or he said, I had to be in LA if we need to meet. And I'm like, I just got here an hour ago, but I'm like heartbroken. And he's like, okay, let's go on a walk. It was just like totally serendipitous.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thanks for explaining that. Yeah, I did. And you just mentioned it, and I did. And it is true, is the compensation structure of Eastern and Western medicine. Western, you're paid for the person still being sick. It's kind of weird, versus paying for, like with Eastern, you're paying for somebody's health. Like you're paying them, you hope for them to leave eventually, right? Where in Western, it's like, yo, you want them to keep coming back. It's very like drug dealer vibe.
Yeah. Did you see that chart we put in? It's in the introduction section, and it's the life expectancy versus.
I did. It was a little sad because I want to live to be minimum 100. And it's minimum. And so it was like, the United States is really not doing well here, you know, not far off, but it looked like it was in the high 70s, early 80s where Americans tap out. I think I'm going to go much longer than that, but other countries are, you know, blowing past this by like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And we're spending so much money in health. So that just, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. We're spending more for those that we can maybe like link the
worst results.
Right. We're spending the most, every other country is correlated. So smaller investment in healthcare, lower life expectancy. And there's this whole bell curve. And then the US is like totally random off the curve, where we spend the most amount of money. And yet, you know, our average lifespan is actually decreasing, which is wild. So that's where I think people are waking up and saying, okay, what's going on here? Are there some other ways, and not a replacement, just how can I start to nourish my body in a different way that might not be as obvious, or might not be something I was taught in school? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I always eat organic. I was vegetarian for a while, then I was vegan for a while. And then I think I did vegan wrong. I was eating all like the fake, well, I definitely did it wrong. I was eating all the fake meats, and they were all experimental at the time, because this would have been like 10 plus years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And so I gave myself a gut problem. So about from like 30 to 35, I was eating like a lot of Japanese root-based, because I went to Cedar Sinai. I'm like, I did like it because I didn't know what was wrong. And it kind of, because I was not getting any satisfying answers, I eventually kind of stumbled into, very reluctantly, Eastern medicine, to like the health store section, where it's like a very peaceful, soft-spoken guy with long hair. And you're like, oh, why do you have to be, why can't you be like a tough guy, you know? But he's like, oh man, over in Santa Monica. But he pinned it down. He knew his stuff. And so I was having this problem, and they're like, oh, CEDAR's like, maybe you have an autoimmune disease, and then I'm like, well, I'm not going to accept that. I'm just going to switch up my diet. But when I went to CEDAR, she's like, here's all the things you can, dietitian or whatever, after I did all the tests. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I said, oh, can I have orange juice or something like that? I don't even drink it a lot, but I was just like, because it's sugary,
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, of course, you don't have to give up orange juice. And she pours a glass of it, like a liquid, and she's like, you can have this much, and it's a glass, and it's like this much orange juice per day. I'm like, well, what's even the point? That's like so dumb, I think people that drink OJ is just like, they pour a full glass and pound it. That would destroy my stomach. So like breads, cheese, like dairy stuff, lots of sugars, just totally wrecking my stomach. And so I pretty much thought I was going to have that for the rest of my life.
Wow.
But I started, so through like the health stuff, really, I just
what the old man with the gray hair give you?
Oh, he's just like, you need to change your diet.
Yeah.
Basically, and he's like, you maybe have taro root. So I did like a lot of Japanese root-based diet. So I was the most boring person to go out with. So I ate very little, and I ate that kind of food. And within 3 years, I had fixed my stomach. Wow. But it was a long time. And I never thought, oh, I'll stick with it, only because of the pain of when I ate certain things. Yeah. It was a constant reminder. And then that made me realize that the stomach is kind of like your brain. It's sending you messages all the time, but you're ignoring it. And so the messages became so hard and painful for me that my conscious mind had to listen, like, oh my God, we can't have bread, or, and then I noticed at restaurants, all they give you is bread. Here's free bread. Here's this, here's that. So I'm like, God, it's really designed. It's nothing good. They're not giving you free organic vegetables while you're waiting for your meal. They're giving you the crap, obviously. They're giving you the cheap crap. So it took 3 years, and I'm like, wow, okay, it works.
And question for you, because I think a lot of people are afraid of this when I say, there's a lot of food sensitivities or things, it's not necessarily an allergy. There's a lot of misconception around that, right? That's like creating a histamine response, but clearly there's some sort of negative reaction when you continue to bombard your body with that food. Right. After a couple years of taking a break from it and maybe doing some other gut healing protocols and whatever else you did, have you reincorporated any of those foods that you cut out? And what happens now?
Unfortunately, yes, because I'm human.
Yeah.
So I eat bread, and I have dairy every night. I do try to stay away from dairy, because it could, like, normally I'll be okay, but if I, like, let's say, which I don't do often, but let's say I have an In-N-Out burger, like, screw it, let's be crazy. But if the cheese on that, like a double or whatever, double single, it will, in like 5 to 10 minutes, my stomach is wrecked. And I'm like, oh my God, why did I do that? Versus if I just do no cheese, oh yeah, I could do it. I can eat the bread. So there's certain things where I'm like, I still have to be a little sensitive, but I can pretty much be blasé about my diet now. It was so, from 30 to 33 years old, I was just like obsessed because it was that pain, that I was getting. So now I'm just like more chill about it. I think that, and like soybeans will hurt me really fast. So it's random cheeses and soy, which I don't want anyways. But if I have like soybeans at maybe like at a sushi restaurant, I'm having this, that'll like in 5 to 10 minutes take me out. I'll just be crippled already. So I have that lingering, but I've been reckless again. I'm like, I'm back, baby. Bring the bread. So it's a problem. I wish that I didn't have the pain, but I still had that protocol, because I do know that all this stuff, it's basically poison. But I was going to say, the first time I went, here in LA, you have organic food and everything, and you think, God, we have everything that we want. So it's really great. But I went to Rome, and I had like a little salad, and an organic salad, and I'm eating the food. I'm like, holy shit, this is the best salad I've ever had. This produce is fire. And I thought in LA, we have amazing produce. And I'm like, this produce, it tastes like it's alive, like they just plucked it. I was really blown away. That actually was a depressing epiphany. I'm like, wow, how bad is the food in America? Even the good food is bad food by other measures. So
there's so many things I want to say about that. And
I know. Okay. Well, let's get back to one thing, which I have no idea how it works.
Okay.
Is you have different, like, there's hot people and moist people. And like, this sounds a little crazy, but it does kind of make sense. So that, as I was reading it, I'm kind of glossing over because I don't get it. I looked at the chart. I'm like, I think I'm a hot person and a cold person and a wet person and a dry person. I couldn't pin down who I am. Are
And
there tests to figure this out?
you have all of those things within you. You have all of the elements
Yeah.
within you.
But which is the leading factor ones? I'm not willing to commit.
So your environment is a really easy first thing to like not remove, a little bit removed from your individual body. So you live in Southern California.
And I hate it.
Same. But we're by the sea, right? We're like almost at sea level. So that automatically might start leaning us towards, okay, you might be like a little more on the moist side. Versus,
just by default, because this is our terrain.
Totally. So that's a default. You're probably going to lean in that direction. People that live, I lived in Colorado for 7 years at 7,000 feet elevation. Almost everyone, regardless of, where they were born or their baseline, they're going to be a little more dry, right? They're living at this really high altitude. So giving them really drying herbs is usually going to aggravate them. And we see that pretty quickly, just like you with the soybeans. On the temperature spectrum.
Wait, so what's the soybean thing doing to me based off of this?
Yeah. So just you said within like 10 minutes, you're like, your body feels some sort of negative.
So how does that relate to the dry or moist type of food?
Great question. So, okay. So every body falls within, moist or dry, warm or cold. Okay. And this has always been known. This is like not me. This is how we've understood body.
It feels a little hippy dippy at this point, right? For me who is totally inexperienced to this.
Okay.
I'm like, here we go. This is getting a little like too witchy, a little bit.
I hear you. But when we think about plants, herbal medicine, maybe you think like, okay, they're all just herbal medicines, right? They fall into this umbrella category.
Right.
But when we break it down, we think about a plant like aloe vera, super moist, right? It's like a very dense, moist
it's kind of weird.
Herb versus cayenne pepper is a really hot, drying pepper, right? Those are both herbal medicines, aloe vera, cayenne pepper. Even though they're both plants, right? They're both herbal medicines. They're all under the same umbrella. They're energetic. So meaning the moistness, the hotness, the coolness, the dryness is very, very different.
Yes.
Okay. So
I can accept that so far.
Okay. So every body, and this is really, we see this based on like trials, using it and seeing how you feel. So for me, I mentioned I'm more of a warm person. Like I'm always in a t-shirt. I speak really loud. I'm constantly flushed versus someone that might be a little cooler of a person, paler skin, right? We can see this in their tissue state, in their tongue, their pulse. There's many ways that we can assess whether someone's a little warmer or cooler. Sometimes it's even as simple as like, we're all sitting in the same room together and some people have like a big sweater on and others are like sweating, right? And so you're like, okay, that person's probably a little cooler.
I can accept this. This is real. Yes.
Yeah. Cooler in temperament.
This is obvious. Yeah. If you think about
this is obvious.
Yeah.
So the relevancy is that two people that, let's say me, that's like really hot and fiery and more dry versus someone that's like cooler and moist, kind of always has damp hands, is really pale, quiet voice. We present with this. What's that?
A creep. No, I'm just kidding. Moist hands, quiet, sitting in the corner, staring. Yeah. Okay. That's the moist people. Gotcha.
We have like our perceptions of like what's good in the West versus in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. But let's say we both present with the same symptom. We both have a stomach ache or a headache. And how that person is treated, what medicine they're going to be given, if it's a real whole plant, like an aloe vera or a cayenne, is going to affect their body differently based on what their temperature and moisture level is. And
this theory, both Chinese and Indian practitioners, they know this. Both of them have integrated this concept, right?
Oh yeah, thousands of
okay.
years for
Yeah.
as long as we've
They've been doing it a
documented
long time. Okay.
as long as we've been like have documentation of healing in any way, of any sort of medicine, it's been understood that not all bodies are created equal.
Mhm.
And the elements, so these different scales of temperature and moisture, are integrated into the body. And so in Ayurveda, they're called doshas. In traditional Chinese medicine, they're called temperaments. In Western medicine, Western herbal medicine, where I was trained in, we call them constitutions. They're all words for basically understanding that every body is unique. And therefore the treatment for that body is going to differ if we really want to bring out healing in that body. Right. So like if I'm already really hot and stimulated as a person,
You don't do
and
cayenne. Yeah.
based on the benefits, maybe it's like, oh, cayenne might be perfect. It is whatever, anti-inflammatory and X, Y, and Z, but I take it and I'm like totally
It pushes you
sweating.
farther in that realm.
That's it.
Yeah.
But the other person that might be more cooler and moist, they could be presenting with the same thing, and they take cayenne and they're totally feeling awesome.
This is where the nuance is, like, because when I'm reading the book, I'm just like, well, just buy it all and take it all. Duh. I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to be expensive, but it's like, you know, if you just buy the whole 21 adaptogens, you're good to go, right? That's kind of like, that's a good starting place.
Yeah. And adaptogens are so forgiving. It's like we talked about this a little bit, but they're a really safe entry point for a lot of people. So they're not as like hot, you know, we use these extremes like the cayenne and the aloe. They're not like that. Most of them, you'll see there's like a lot of neutral, some like more cool or warm, less falling on these big extreme sides. And so it's a great point of entry to say, okay, well, I know that I'm stressed. So I'm going to start taking reishi or ashwagandha. And the constitution and the temperature of the plants is really so we can start to listen to our body more and start to really help choose the medicine that's going to make us feel the best.
Okay, I got a lightning round for you.
Cool.
Because as I'm reading this, so I have this, you know, this brand.
Okay.
But it's capsules.
Okay.
So I'm reading that these are, you know, Gaia herbs.
Yep.
Yeah, Gaia.
Yeah, love Gaia.
Yeah, and then I have this one, Mega Foods. I never do this, but this is the stuff I have. Turmeric with curcumin. Yeah.
Curcumin. Yep.
Curcumin, sorry. And
Yeah,
I should sprinkle maybe some black pepper in it, is what I got out of the book.
Perfect.
Okay. But the problem is they're capsules, and I'm reading it and I should be doing tinctures. And I'm like, who has time to do this? Like you were saying earlier with your clients.
Yeah, you don't have to do tinctures. Just taste them. Open your capsules.
Oh, don't take the capsule. Don't eat the capsule.
You can if you want. Like if the medicine
I didn't even
doesn't
think
work.
about it. I could just crack the capsule. I don't need the capsule. I can just do the powder.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so I have this one. This one is reishi.
Great.
This one's turkey tail.
Great.
Okay. It's like product placement.
Yeah, exactly.
Lion's mane.
Cool.
And my new brand that I'll be releasing. No, I'm just kidding. And then there's Mega Food. So these are kind of the ones that I have. And then there's a couple that I need to get, you know, as I'm reading it. But yeah, it's tough to like, because it just all becomes like personally relatable. I have like this little like fatty bump, and I'm like, you know, in my arm, and I'm like, oh, I guess maybe I could take a supplement, an adaptogen that could maybe make that go away, because a lot of them are like, what would be the main one that it's in the book, but now I don't even remember. The one that gets rid of cancers and tumors. It's like the most powerful one.
Yeah, I have to be so careful about this, but turkey tail is amazing.
So that's the one I have.
Turkey tail.
Turkey tail, yeah.
Yeah, but each it depends on the cancer.
It's not medical advice for anyone watching.
Yeah, there's no medical advice.
We're just free flowing here. Yeah, for me personally. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, there's several different functional mushrooms specifically that support, whether it's activating the immune system during active cancer treatments, you know, so during chemotherapy or radiation, there's some really amazing research there. Okay. I mean, both depending on the species we're talking about, that can actually be directly anti-cancer as well.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
and
Okay. I just was like, I think that these are good brands, but as I'm reading them, I'm like, oh, it sounds like I need to be taking this up another notch, which I'm like, that's, that it seemed like it's either a tincture, a tea, or a stew.
Here's the deal. The medicine doesn't work if you don't take it. So whatever is going to be easy for
I
you.
saw that's your line. You tell people.
Like if it's easy for you, if you're taking pills,
just keep going.
Heck yeah. Keep going. If you want to do, if I tell you, you have to do this perfect gold standard way and take 3 capsules, open them up, put them on your tongue before you're never going to do it. And you're not going to get the benefits. So like,
just keep going.
You're doing great. Just keep going.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start maybe just doing powders.
Great. And what you want to be really careful of. So we'll do like spark notes really quick, condensed with the mushrooms, because there's so much snake oil out there.
I know.
Regardless of the brand, right? You want to make sure it's the real mushroom, also called the fruiting body. This is the part that's on the side of the tree. It's visible to the human eye.
Some brands don't make that clear.
Yeah. So you want to watch out for words like mycelium or full spectrum or primordia. These are all words to like hide the fact that it's not the fruit.
And when I'm reading, even this brand, one of them is fruiting body extracts. So that one's good. That's the lion's mane. So that's what. But then I'm looking at the turkey's tail.
Yep.
Oh, that's fruiting body too. So I had kind of stumbled on that. You need the fruiting body.
The fruiting body. It also needs to be grown on wood. So most of these mushrooms, they grow on wood in nature.
But these don't tell you where they grow.
They might not say on the bottle, but the red flag, red flag is if it says other ingredients and there's a grain.
Okay.
So like the other ingredients will say like rice or oat or some sort of grain. You want to look out for that. That means, clearly this wasn't grown on wood.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the third is the extract, which you've already got.
Okay, cool. All right.
So, good job, David.
Yeah, we're getting started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a daily routine where you're doing, because it sounds like there's an AM, there's a afternoon, there's a PM. Do you have your own daily routine that you're following?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And is it like crazy? Is it all drink based, or is it, like smoothie based that you're doing?
Yeah, good question. Caveat before I go into it. We're in a culture, we're like, oh, what is this person doing? I'm going to copy it.
And I just wanted you to email me your daily routine. I'll just start
there. But the point is our bodies are different, right?
Yeah.
Bioindividualism. So I just want to start with that. But I'm not against capsules if you need them, right? If it's quick, you're on the go. I'm traveling right now. So I take different capsules as well. I do powders when I can. I'll do smoothies.
So you switch it up. Yeah.
Switch it up. It's really the extraction method. So whether it was tinctured or whether it was put into a tea, I want to make sure that it's potent, that it's organic, that it's clean, that it's of the right dose. And once I've met those standards, I'm like, okay, it's not as important if it's administered in, in a powder or if it's put into my smoothie. Like the point is that I'm getting it into my system every day.
Right, for sure. Okay, cool. And then the other thing, it's like with the different stories of these medicines, like, yes, they're documented in theory for like 3,000 to 5,000 years, but they also have some wild stories in there. Like the goji berries that were in the well. There's a village of just like 100-year-old guys and ladies walking around. I guess there's young people too, obviously they're regenerating, but there's kind of like these, do you believe there was a city where there was a goji well that they were living to well over 100 years old? Do you think that could have been a real thing?
I'm open to the possibility.
But probably it's a little bit of a story, yeah?
We could get deep. Everything's a story, right? Everything's a story.
Based in reality at all, or what do you think?
Yeah.
On this one, I gotta know.
Yeah, I wouldn't have put it in the book if I didn't think there was some legitimacy to it.
And I think of the movie, the movie The Fountain.
Yes.
I love that movie. It's kind of weird, but I'm gonna rewatch it actually now because of the book.
Yeah.
But so do you believe that there's some random tree out there that we haven't, do you think there's anything we haven't discovered out there that's like
tons and tons of tons,
super more powerful than anything we've ever had? It's just waiting like it's a tree sitting in some weird ravine that we've never discovered? Do you think something like that exists?
Oh, big time. Someone was just telling me the other day that they discovered these, like, not they, but they were reading about this new discovery of these like sinkholes somewhere in Asia. Did you read about this? It was like a few days ago. There are these like huge underground sinkholes. So these, like, all these species that have never been discovered, and they're trying to classify them now. I mean, this is a few days ago. If we look at fungi, or this huge biological kingdom, not even classified as a kingdom until about 50 years ago.
I like that you guys said that, because it does place it in the mind. You have the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and I call it fungi, but you're fungi.
Yeah. Either way, fungi, fungi.
I used it in a Scrabbles game, fungi, and they're
Love
like,
it.
no foreign words. My mother-in-law. It was a huge argument. I won't play Scrabble with them anymore because they wouldn't give me points. They're using foreign words. I'm just trying to use a kingdom name.
Totally. Like, this is we're making it more of a household word day by day.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So it counts during Scrabble. I just want to, that's important to know. That's an English word.
Oh, very much an English word. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but you believe there's possibility where there's a tree sitting in a ravine that's like the fountain tree of life.
Might not be a tree, but maybe a mushroom.
The mushroom of life. You think there's something like that out there maybe?
We've only discovered and classified 1.5% of all fungal species on Earth.
Okay.
So we have so much to learn and know.
You think there's like an old guy who's just been picking off these mushrooms? He's out there, he's 300 years old.
Yeah. Do you read that story about the Chinese herbalist claimed that he lived till 256?
Yeah, died in 1933. But he had a good run.
He had a great run. Who knows for sure?
Do you have photos of him? Have you seen what he looked in 33? They could have had photos of him.
Yeah, let's link some photos in the show notes.
Oh my God, I've never done that. Okay, I'll have to figure out how to do that.
Okay, there's some great photos online.
Does he look like he's 200, 300 years old?
He looks very old. I mean, I've never seen another 200, 300-year-old person, so hard to compare, but. And
he should be a very healthy 200, 300, like the standards of, what was the supplement he was taking? So everybody.
Goji was his big supplement.
Oh, this is the goji thing, yeah.
The berry of longevity. So anti-aging longevity, like he had goji every day.
What about all these emperors who are telling everybody, bring me this mushroom. If I see you taking yourself, your head's gonna get cut off.
Oh yeah, totally legitimate.
These are real stories, or these are all myths?
These are real stories.
Yeah, I think that maybe the soil was so powerful, like they just had access to super powerful stuff, where everything we have is so processed and the soil is so depleted. Like it'd be very rare to stumble upon a mushroom that's like, I have the strength of 10 ox, and Yeah,
that's a big piece of it. When you're talking about like the nutrient rich food in Rome, so much of our food, even if we know kale should have a lot of magnesium and all of these different vitamin K, it's like our soil, it's coming from our soil, and the health of our soil has been so, like bastardized is the word that I want to use. Like it is so deficient in minerals that are critical to our body's functioning. And so then our food is deficient in it, and then we're deficient, and it's this cascade reaction. And then not only that, we're picking food out of season. So it's containing all of these, there's kind of a rabbit hole we're going down, but it basically carries these compounds within them, lectins, right, that are keeping it preserved, right? It's like you don't pick a berry before it's ripe, or a tomato before it's ripe, because it has all these compounds that are toxic.
And that's why it tastes bad. It's trying to tell us, hey, I'm not good. I'm not ready. Don't eat me. Yeah, and yet we've done that with all of our food, so that when we go into a grocery store, we can have any food we think of, which is really so minimal compared to the amount of foods that we used to eat. We eat like maybe 40, 43 or like common
the same thing over and over again. But we're kind of, it feels like we're spoiled because we can have them year round, but it's really not that beneficial. We have a smaller variety, and in exchange of having the same variety year round, we're not getting as many of the nutrients as we should be getting.
Yeah. And that's it. And not only that, what we're seeing in the huge amount of research going into gut health is it's not even like how much probiotics or like what different quality of foods you're taking. It's really the diversity that's contributing to a higher gut health. So it's like eat 20 different fruits or vegetables a week, right? What diversity can you get? And all of those different edible ingredients are feeding different populations of microorganisms or fungi residing within the gut. And that's creating this healthy flora.
Yeah, it's kind of like just like a, with like social media, a network effect that there has to be a wide variety so they can interact with each other.
Yeah.
And you don't know really what the issue is. So if you sweep through and have a wider variety, then your body will start to extract what it needs.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That pretty much covered all of, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you're the first one I've talked to that's read the whole book besides everyone on the team and the publishing house.
Yeah. Do you want me to give you any other like copy edit notes or anything? It was super cool.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, give me what you want, but I never expected to be asked, do you think the stories are real? And
that's so funny.
Yeah. I think I just want to share, like, there's so much storytelling is how we have passed on information since we've been humans. Right. And so I would love to, how can we like collectively bring back the power of storytelling? Now we live in a world where we're just bombarded with all of this information that we're like, I don't know what to trust and I don't know what's real. Yeah. And I don't think that was the way it always was. Of course, there's like fantasy and let's dream of different things, but healing stories of like, this is what happened to me. I think we're not sharing those as much. And so we're not used to being like, or we're. Yeah,
it's tough to accept these older stories for sure, because they do kind of feel like I've been reading to my kids, King Arthur, but I read one book and then I was like, oh, let's kind of explore the whole legend. So I ordered other books, other writers' stories of King Arthur, and some overlap and some don't.
Yeah.
So I think we're on the second or third book or whatever. And now we're pretty much tired of King Arthur after you do that, but we're going through and there's some overlapping. And then it's like, and then I got the history of Britain's kings, or I forget the title of it. So I don't think there's very much talk of King Arthur, but the actual historical person, there was King Arthur. But for whatever reason, this guy, all these stories were spun, and then it became a tradition of telling these stories. So it does feel like maybe some of these Chinese and Indian stories are like that, but they are rooted. Right. The stories kept being told because there was at least some kernel of truth to it, like with the King Arthur stuff. So I kind of feel like that. But I do think it's good for you to pin it to modern day stories. Like, hey, this actually, here's a story. That's just easier to digest.
Yeah. And I think that was the vision, is like, how can we bring part of these ancient
so much
stories
easier, to accept
with gold standard clinical trials to back up whatever benefits were claimed traditionally with real life healing stories of people that I've worked with directly or that, have reached out to us directly.
The anecdotal stuff. Yeah. But I think including the gold standard, explaining what can you explain what a gold standard is real quick?
Yeah. Gold standard trial is double blind. It's placebo controlled. So it's a clinical trial where you're actually using, ashwagandha or reishi. It's a wide enough variety of subjects tested against a placebo.
Statistically to be
accurate.
Yeah. So it's good to include those as well, because so many of the things when people look at supplements, they're like, oh, I don't know, it seems kind of like witchy because it says FDA, who cares about the FDA? Is my feeling. But people are like, well, it's not FDA approved. It's like, who cares? But to have the golden standard, references, that's super helpful because it kind of trumps that. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the book. Thanks for writing it. How long did it take you guys to put this together?
We've been working on it for about 2 years.
Oh, wow. Such a commitment. All right, cool. Well, if you don't have anything else, we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Just thanks for having me. Thanks for opening your mind and trying on new ways of thinking. This can't be witchy and heady, but if it can work, right? And if you can feel amazing benefits, more energy and better sleep and more vitality and better performance, like why not? So
I think people are starting to open up to it for sure. Well, thank you again, Danielle. Appreciate it.
Thanks. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.